Okay, so here we are with another Mcfarlane DC Multiverse unboxing, and this is Batman Troika, which was a storyline that ran in Batman titles uh, right after the Nightfall saga, pretty much. You had Nightfall, and then Night Quest, and then Night's End, and then Zero Hour happened, so you had like some Zero Hour tie-ins, and then you had a storyline called Prodigal, in which Dick Grayson took over the role of Batman for a little bit, while Batman went on a bit of a sabbatical. To Bruce Wayne was trying to figure out what his next step was going to be, and basically came back in a new Batman costume, a new old Batman costume. I've said before how this is kind of a vanilla Batman, kind of, but I kind of feel like there's three color schemes that you have for Batman that to me would qualify as a vanilla Batman. You have the blue and gray color scheme as modeled by this superpowers action figure here. You have the black and gray color scheme as modeled by this superpowers action figure here, and then finally you have the how much more black can this be? And the answer is none. None more black. And Timothy's Toy Therapy is here and says I opened my Batman Troika the other day. Cool. Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. So like I'm a big fan of Kelley Jones, who is the artist that this version of Batman is based off of, and he drew Batman comics starting in the early part of the 1990s. He'd had a career in comics since the 1980s and had come over to DC and was working on things like Sandman and Deadman, and finally did a Batman graphic novel entitled Batman and Dracula Red Rain, in which, as you might imagine, Batman fights Dracula. And that was one of the first Elseworlds books. It wasn't the first. I think it would have been in the first five or so. I guess depending on how you define an Elseworlds book, like the first official Elseworlds was Holy Terror. But the thing that really got the ball rolling, the book that inspired the Elseworlds series and wound up becoming kind of retroactively considered the first Elseworlds would have been Gotham by Gaslight. Lil Bane is here and asks, "How was your day, man?" Well, I'm about to be opening this Batman action figure, so you can't. Life doesn't get much better than this, does it, folks? No, it really doesn't. So, so yeah, one of these early Elseworld stories was Batman versus Dracula, and you might ask, why does Batman versus Dracula need to be an Elseworld story? Well, that really, it's how it ends is really what makes it an Elseworld story. I won't say any more than that, other than it's Batman versus Dracula, and it ends in a way that couldn't possibly happen in regular continuity. So draw your own conclusions there. But there's three books in that trilogy. There's Batman and Dracula Red Rain, Batman Bloodstorm, and what was the last? Crimson Mist was the last one. They're all good. I think the third one it isn't quite like as good story wise as the other three, but it's still a fun comic. I like it all. I like all three of them. I think the second one might be my favorite. That one's got Catwoman in it, so I like Catwoman. So anywho, Kelley Jones drew that comic, and he had a way of drawing Batman with like this huge cape and these really exaggerated ears, and he had an art style. Has an art style. He's still working. That I kind of feel like depends more than anything else on mood and ambiance and all that kind of good stuff. So I kind of feel like almost by design, his version of Batman is not too consistent as far as like how his physique is drawn and everything like that. Like in some panels, he's drawn as being like a little more on the lean side, like a Neil Adams kind of Batman, and on some he's he's definitely like a bigger, bulkier Frank Miller Batman, and this kind of skews more towards the latter. Lil Bane says, I am definitely subbing. Hey, that's a good idea. And since you mentioned that, I'm also going to say, if you're watching this right now, make sure that if you're enjoying this video that you like and subscribe so you get more videos like this in the future. And the more people like and subscribe, the more my videos get out there, the more people watch them, and then the more people like and subscribe. So just keep that in mind. Oh, something else I want to point out about this packaging, and I don't usually talk too much about the packaging on these DC Multiverse figures because it's all pretty much the same. Here's the artwork on the back. Batman getting the drop on some Russian mobster. But you'll notice they got the old school, the 1970s DC logo back on there. Now, I've been kind of critical about some of James Gunn's decisions since he took over DC Studios. But bringing back the 1970s DC logo, that's something I'm going to give the man some props. That was a good decision. So while I might be critical of some of his other decisions, that's one that I'm gonna say good job there, Jimmy Pistol, whatever you want to be called. The art is amazing, says Timothy's Toy Therapy. Yes, see, like I said, I'm a huge fan of Kelley Jones. I loved his work on Sandman and Deadman, and he did a lot of Marvel stuff, even going back to the 80s. A lot of cool, like he did What If Loki Found the Hammer of Thor and that kind of thing. And Lil Bane says, have you heard if Toys Assemble or Hot Toys have the best figures, very realistic? Yeah, but I don't have any of those because those are like also very expensive. So we got something different here. A new type of figure stand that also has the classic 1970s DC logo on it. So it's done in white, not the glossy black, like we saw or the silver that we saw in the collector's editions. Where's one of my ones with the glossy black? There's another silver one. There's a Mcfarlane Toys digital one. I swear it's like the most common type, and I'm finding everything else. So remember how that had the glossy black logo on there? This has a white DC. What was the name of the guy who designed this? Milt Glazer, I think was his name. He designed the I Love New York logo also. So he designed this DC logo, and it's my favorite DC logo. So I am happy to see it return, and I'm also happy to see something else return. He's got a wired cape, and it would have been tragic if he did not had a wired cape. I was disappointed enough that the regular old drawing a blank on it, the No Man's Land Batman. I was disappointed enough that one did not have a wired cape. I would have been just incensed if the Kelley Jones Batman didn't have a wired cape, because like I said, it's like that's kind of one of the more distinctive things about his version of Batman. So something unusual here, his hands are actually taped into the package. You don't see that very often. I wonder if that's something new they're going to be doing. So, but I'll just cut through the tape with these snips, since I already have these snips over here. And so he had a single rubber tab, well, one double rubber tab around the ankles, and then one more around the waist. So not too much for the rubber tabs, so that's a good thing. Let's go ahead and get Batman out of the packaging, and you can see that it's definitely based on that Kelley Jones version of Batman with like the super long ears like I was talking about. And not just that, the way that his face is sculpted, like he's got that kind of like almost beak-like nose and that scowl. This is very close to Kelley Jones's artwork. So, like I've mentioned before, how Batman obviously is my favorite character, and there he is with the cape all flared out. And my second favorite character is Count Dracula. So, of course, I was really excited about a graphic novel that was going to feature Batman versus Dracula, and it is that shiny, satiny material for the cape. Oh, it looks so cool. We're gonna have a lot of fun with this. So yeah, I was psyched about that. Read that, loved it. Read the second graphic novel, loved it. He did another graphic novel also with Doug Mensch, who was his usual partner in terms of working on Batman comics. He was the writer, and he wrote Batman back in the 80s and then came back in the 90s. And they did another one together called Batman Dark Joker the Wild, which was kind of like a dark fantasy version of Batman, where the Joker was like this evil sorcerer. That was pretty cool. But but he wound up working on the mainstream Batman titles at first as the cover artist. He did a lot of covers for Nightfall, which were really cool and got a lot of hype. Were very popular, and I guess they were able to get him to come on board as the regular artist of Batman. And again, he worked with Doug Mensch, and he was the regular artist on Batman for a good long while. So this is the costume that Bruce Wayne wore when he very first came back as Batman, and it was a little bit different from the costume he was wearing previously. It was not blue and gray as Batman's costume had often been drawn in the comics up to that time. And I got over here uh, what's my personal favorite Batman action figure, at least from Mcfarlane. And you can see that's got a blue and gray suit. That's the Norm Brayfogle version. So we got two of my favorite Batman artists of the late 80s, early 90s with Kelley Jones and Norm Brayfogle. But this was even though the colors are a bit darker than what they actually were in the comics at the time, this is pretty much what Batman was wearing in like the latter part of the 1980s and the earlier part of the 1990s. And then the decision was made, I guess, to make his costume a bit closer to how it appeared in the movies, so an all black costume. However, when it was colored in the comic books, it was still colored with blue highlights and gray highlights. So it had gray highlights over the body and then blue over the cape, cowl, gloves, boots, etc. And that's how this was colored in the comics at the time. Now, the other difference, MHD is here and he says, "Hello, both of these look great." I agree. This is like I said, my favorite so far. But maybe this might overtake it. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see. This will also be an easier figure, I think, for most people to find than the Norm Brayfogle one, since that one was a McFarlane Toy Store exclusive. So that one's going to be expensive now. But this guy you could probably still get at retail if you look in the right spot. So and then this figure also is supposed to be the same outfit, basically, which was the Justice League, the Grant Morrison type Batman. And you'll notice that this shares a lot of the same parts with this Batman figure. This one being just an entire repaint of the three Jokers, the Jason Fabok Batman, and this one reuses a lot of the same parts. You'll see it's got the same torso, the same. I think it's the same upper part of the arms. Although the lower part of the arms aren't too different. I think they probably could have kept the lower part of the arms. The same, not the same belt, but the same trunks, pretty much. The same thighs, different shins. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But the head sculpt is the best part of this figure. It totally captures the look of that Kelley Jones Batman, and that's awesome. And then you just have the cool wired cape, which I wish they had made this wired cape a little bit longer. I mean, it's a good Batman cape length for like just a typical Batman, but for a Kelley Jones Batman, I'd really want to have like a whole lot of cape to it. Like with this one, and granted, this was a deluxe figure, so but you see how much wingspan this cape has to it. Like this should be what a Kelley Jones Batman cape should look like. This is adequate. This is fine. This is serviceable. But like it would have been nice if it was just gigantic. Timothy's Toy Therapy asks, "Where does No Man's Land Batman rank for you in context?" Well, I think that No Man's Land Batman was almost a great figure. And the one thing that held it back from being like a truly great figure was that it didn't have the wires in the cape. It needed to have those wires in the cape. And it's still a pretty good Batman figure, don't get me wrong. Like if you were, for whatever reason, only able to get one McFarlane Batman figure, and the only one you were able to get would be the No Man's Land, perfectly fine. Fits in just fine. But I am still disappointed that it didn't have that wired cape. That was a real bummer for me personally. But that's just me. That's just my opinion. Other than that, I thought that was a great figure. I like the color scheme to it. I felt like it really captured that late '90s sort of aesthetic. So I was pretty happy with that one. So yeah, this is supposed to be the costume that he wore when he first came back after Nightfall. And one of the things that I noticed about it is that, like I said, it does have new forearms, and you can see that there's no seam for the gloves. It just, the gloves are just kind of blended in with the suit. And that's how it was in that first Troika storyline. And it was also the same way with the boots, but you can see they did choose instead to give him proper Batman boots. They just have the fins on them. The fins didn't last too long. They only lasted for that first storyline. And hey, Earth Dude is here. And he says, "Ayo, dudes," and Ayo right back at you. Always good to see you, sir. So, yeah, the fins didn't last too long. I kind of figure that's probably not like the most practical thing to have on a bat suit. And I realize I'm talking about we Batman. Yes, we are. I realize I'm talking about a guy, a billionaire who dresses up in a rubber bat costume and goes out to fight crime, being practical. But I kind of gotta imagine those would get snagged on stuff, even more than the forearms. Like I figure the ones on the calves would. Timothy's Toy Therapy says, "Yeah, that is a bummer, but I've noticed the holes where wires can go into the torso, so I'm going to I'm going to try with a new cape." Yeah, I was thinking about doing that myself. I was almost thinking maybe if I could just take the figure apart, maybe even I could just insert a wire because it's got the seam there. So I figure I can maybe insert a wire in there. I don't know. I'm gonna see what I can do about it. I think it'd probably be worth picking up a second one just to have one to experiment with. But I think out of the two McFarlane Batman figures that have come out recently, I definitely like this one the best out of the two. And I think you could have taken this one, and I know they have a platinum edition of the No Man's Land where it's just in a solid black suit. And I think likewise you could take this one and put it into that blue and gray color scheme, and it would look really cool like that. So I do like the No Man's Land figure, but I like this one just a little bit better because not only the wired cape, but also like it specifically being a Kelley Jones Batman. And I've really wanted a proper Kelley Jones Batman figure since like the 90s. Kenner did one that was pretty close to being a Kelley Jones Batman with like a huge solid plastic cape. But it's not really much of a toy so much it is like a collector's piece. And they did that one in both blue and gray and solid black, and that's a cool figure. Yeah, I love this one. Timothy's Toy Therapy says this one is so epic. Yeah, I've been excited about this one since I first saw it. I'm like, oh my god, it's a Kelley Jones Batman. I gotta have it. Okay, so I'm getting ahead of myself. I've been talking about this figure for a while, and I haven't talked about any of the accessories, and he does come with a few accessories. So let's go ahead and have a look at the accessories that he comes with. And first of all, he's got a couple of extra hands. We've got a gripping hand here, and that one's got some texture on it. See like how some of the Batman hands have that sort of like the padding and the seams on there. Like these hands came with a Hush Batman, I think, and they've come with a few other Batman figures over the years since McFarlane has had this license. And then we have this big old Batarang, one of the larger Batarangs that comes with a Batman figure. I don't know if it's quite as big as that one that came with Batgirl, but I've had this Batarang come with another figure. I forget which one it came with, but this is like the second one of these that I've had. So it's ginormous. So the hands that he's got on him are these almost kind of gesturing hands, but I think they can still grip stuff. And I think I'm going to leave those hands on there because those are perfect for like a Kelley Jones Batman. But yeah, you can actually fit the Batarang into this hand. It's so huge, even though it's not like actually a gripping hand, it fits in there pretty well. So, but man, he's awesome. It really makes me wish that hopefully in the time that McFarlane has left, that maybe they can do an actual vampire Batman. It'd be really cool, I think. Like they could use this same body, the Fabok body, I think works pretty well for a Kelley Jones Batman, but just kind of redo this head. Like it could be almost the same exact head, but instead of the grimace, and you can see like a little bit of teeth in there. You get that kind of expression, but have him with like his mouth open and the fangs and everything. That would be really cool. Man, that's a cool dramatic pose, isn't it? But yeah, Kelley Jones Batman was all about the ears and the cape. And I remember seeing like a little article in a magazine where he was talking about like his process of drawing Batman, and he was saying that he would oftentimes just start out just kind of scrawling the basic shape of the cape and fill in everything else after. Like I said, his art style was more about mood and ambiance and atmosphere and everything like that. And a lot of people, I think, didn't rock with that style. They kind of looked at it and said, this is a little too crazy for me. And there were other Batman artists at the time, like say, Graham Nolan, Barry Kitson, a lot of great Batman artists working at the time. I think like Brian Stelfreeze was doing covers for Shadow of the Bat. So you had a lot of good Batman artists to choose from. So if you wanted a more traditional art style, obviously somebody like Graham Nolan, sorry, he'd be right up your alley. And I love Graham Nolan stuff too. I thought he was a great Batman artist. But Kelley Jones was just kind of in a league of his own, where he was just like a very stylized sort of artist. And most of his Batman stories, and Doug Mensch was really good at writing these type of Batman stories for him that were almost kind of like horror comics that Batman just kind of happened to show up in. And I liked that aspect of it. Batman's a character that you can do in all different types of genres, and he usually works out pretty well. You can do, straight superhero stories. You can do crime dramas. You can do horror stories. You can do like romantic comedy with Batman in it, and it would probably still work pretty well. Like I mean, just take a random sampling of episodes of Batman the Animated Series, and you got like all different kinds of genres that fit in there. You have like almost like westerns and like Bruce Wayne and a chain gang, and Harley being released from the sanitarium, and hijinks ensue, and it becomes this screwball comedy. So yeah, Batman's a character that just kind of spans genres, and Kelley Jones's Batman was definitely the horror Batman, and like there was definitely a lot of Bernie Wrightson influence to his style that I appreciated. A lot of Michael Golden influence, but Bernie Wrightson was the main one I noticed. There was a lot of Frazetta in there, and Wrightson, of course, was like probably one of the greatest horror comic artists that ever lived. And I kind of feel like Kelley Jones kind of was almost like a successor to that, and did some really cool stuff with the mood and the atmosphere and everything. And he still comes back and does Batman comics every now and then. Like I think the last time he did was maybe like, oh god, it must have been like 10 years ago now. It's been a while, but you see him pop up every now and then, and do something else with Batman. And he is one of my favorite Batman artists. But let's go ahead and talk about the articulation. So we haven't really done that yet. And of course, I've been over this body type before on this channel many times, because it's that Jason Fabok Batman, like I said. And I love Jason Fabok. I think he's a great artist. And he's probably like my favorite Batman artist that's working on the character today. You still see him do stuff every now and then. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the articulation. So he's got that kind of articulation where like the head isn't articulated where it meets the neck. It's like solid there, but it's articulated where the neck meets the shoulders, which is unusual for a Mcfarlane figure. But it works pretty well on Batman sometimes, just because it makes it like a bit smoother, where the cowl comes together and everything. So let's see. Batman can look up about that far. He can look down about that far, tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side, rotate the head all the way around. It's still really stiff on mine. And you see he's got this plastic piece here that holds the cape onto the shoulders. And then, of course, he moves, the arms rotate all the way around the shoulders. It's got that good Mcfarlane butterfly joint there, so you get some wiggle room there. He does have the Batman emblem is sculpted onto the chest. He's got a bicep swivel. So the bicep rotates all the way around. Got the double jointed elbows. If I can get it to move properly. That's about the range of motion we get at the elbows. And then, of course, the wrists rotate all the way around and move. They do have like a bit of a hinge there, which moves back and forth. And because of the way that this is jointed, you can basically move his wrist around any which way you want to. I love the Mcfarlane wrist articulation. I'm telling you, if anybody from Mattel out there is watching this, you're going to have a lot to compete with as far as the articulation on these figures go. And it's not that I dislike the articulation on figures you're doing currently. Like the Masterverse figures have excellent articulation, obviously, but the Mcfarlane articulation is just a cut above. So take notes if anybody from Mattel is watching this, and you'll have some idea of what to do. You buy one of these figures and just freaking reverse engineer it. So anyway, he's got the cool Mcfarlane torso articulation, so that can move around pretty much any which way you want to. He can bend back about that far, bend forward about that far, kind of bend to the side, either way like that. Of course, the torso rotates all the way around where the rib cage meets the abs, and where the abs meet the utility belt. So a lot of good articulation there. Batman can kick up about that far, and he's got double jointed knees. That's about the range of motion you get at the knees. And no boot cut, but he doesn't really need a boot cut because he does have the cool Mcfarlane ankle articulation, which rotates all the way around where the ankle meets the boot and where the ankle meets the foot. And then his foot can point down about that far. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not right. His foot can point down about that far, point up about that far, and then he's got toe articulation just to show off. Man, this is a cool figure, and I'm really happy with this figure. He's not quite as awesome as the Norm Brayfogle figure, but we know that I'm a sucker for blue and gray, right? So that's always going to have a little bit of an edge for me. And plus, the Norm Brayfogle figure just had that great cape. I mean, like, really, the Kelley Jones figure deserved to have a cape like this. And I get, since this is like a regular release figure, they probably didn't want to go that all out on the cape. But even in a way, they're just having more of like a standard wired type of Batman cape, you can still get some good dramatic poses out of it. And I still think it captures that Kelley Jones look very, very well. Oh, Joe Malozzi is here. Am I saying that? Malozzi? Am I saying that right? I don't like to mispronounce people's names. So let me know if I'm saying that right. Malozzi? Is that it? He says, very cool. I just got Cyborg Superman 2 days ago. Wow, he is cool. Yes, I agree. Cyborg Superman is probably one of the best figures that I've opened on the channel recently. Before I was doing these Batman figures, say like Malazzi? Am I saying it right now? Malazzi? Okay, so there's a T in there. Okay, I got it. Okay. Yeah, sorry. I don't like to mispronounce people's names, so I like to clarify. I don't want to be saying your name wrong like a jackass all the time. So but yeah, that Cyborg Superman, out of the Superman figures that I opened up recently, that was easily my favorite. And I opened up some really good Superman figures, but I think I had the Fleischer Superman, and that one was awesome, and the Kingdom Come Superman, and that one was awesome. But I think they just did such a good job with that Cyborg Superman that was definitely the best of those that I opened up. Oh, and I see you got the Godfather for your icon there. That's cool. I love that movie. So I love Godfather and Godfather 2. Godfather 3's okay. It's better than its reputation, I think, but it had a lot to live up to. So, man, like Francis Ford Coppola, when he's on, he is on. Like Apocalypse Now, freaking love Apocalypse Now. But yeah, Joe says, yeah, they did. They had to get him. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that was such a great figure. They did a really great job with that one. And I've got Superboy on pre-order from GameStop, and I did order a cyborg. I'm not cyborg. Eradicator from Amazon, but it's I guess it's got a little bit of a hold up on it, so it still hasn't shipped yet. So knock on wood. Hopefully everything goes okay with that one and I actually get it. But yeah, the Kelley Jones Batman, the Troika Batman is awesome. He is definitely worth picking up. I can't recommend this guy highly enough, especially if you're like me and you're a fan of like the Batman comics of the 1990s. And man, I enjoyed those comics a lot when I was reading them. But it's like I think back on those times now, and like I think they were like even better than I realized at the time. It's like it's like Andy said on The Office. I wish there was a way to know that you were in the good old days when you were still in them. Like I did not know how good we had it with the comics of that time. But yeah, they're fun to go back and read nowadays, and uh pretty much the whole Denny O'Neil run as editor on Batman. That's just some great Batman comics there. And you think about everything that happened during Denny O'Neil's run, like Dark Knight Returns would have happened just before, and he kind of inherited uh, uh, Batman Year One and Killing Joke. Those are already, those the ball was already rolling when he came on board. But then you had, like Jim Starlin's run on Batman, Death in the Family, the return of Jim Aparo, one of the all-time great Batman artists, finishing out his career, doing his swan song run on Batman. You had Norm Brayfogle. Again, I mentioned how much I loved his artwork getting his start. You had writers like Alan Grant, Chuck Dixon, Doug Mensch returning. You had a lot of great artists working on the title. You had guys like Kelly Jones, Graham Nolan, Barry Kitson. You had Brian Stelfreeze, mostly doing covers, but he did some interiors here and there too. And he's a great artist. I'd love seeing him do interiors whenever you get the chance to see that. But and then like you had Nightfall, you had Tim Drake come in as Robin, you had No Man's Land, which was like the big climactic uh everything comes to a head as far as the Denny O'Neil run, and then he was just burned out, and then he had to retire. But what a way to go, man. I mean, like the talk about a legendary figure in comics with Denny O'Neil. So yeah, his whole run on Batman was great. But man, is this a great figure? I love this figure so much. I'm happy to pick him up. And we got more '90s Batman stuff to talk about on our next episode, because the next episode I'm going to be opening up this fella here, the Night Quest Batman. We look at the art on the back, we see that he's colored somewhat differently. Why is he colored this way in the actual in the figure, whereas he wasn't colored that way in the comics? Well, we're going to discuss that on the next episode. So if you want to make sure you don't miss that next episode, you know what to do. You got to like and subscribe and all that fun YouTube stuff down below. You got to leave a comment. Let me know what you think about these figures. Let me know what you think about the Troika Batman figure. And do you think, as I did, that they did an excellent job capturing Kelly Jones's distinctive style? It's kind of remarkable that they were able to take a Jason Fabok type of Batman body and still make it work for an artist as distinct as Kelly Jones. Like, I don't know if I'd go so far as to say Kelly Jones is like the best Batman artist. That's Neil Adams. Neil Adams is the best Batman artist. But Kelly Jones was definitely one of the greats and definitely one of my favorites. And I would certainly say he was the most distinct Batman artist. His style is unmistakable. But yeah, they managed to pull it off nicely, I think. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments how you think it compares as far as like Kelly Jones's style, and if they captured it, or if there's anything you would like to see done differently, or you think they could have done a better job with it, or do you think they just nailed it as good as they possibly can? So I've got Asbats next. That's going to be my next episode. And then back here I've got Batwing that came out in this same wave, and also the Future State Batman. So I'll be opening those up sometime this week. And then I still got Batman Year 2. I've still got this Batgirl figure, the barbarian caveman type Batgirl. I don't remember exactly what. We got Kite Man. We got Kite Man to open up. Joe says, yeah, they that's what you said before. I'm reading what you already said. I'm sorry, I thought you said something new. But but anyway, I really enjoyed doing this episode. I hope you enjoyed watching it almost as much as I enjoyed making it, because I enjoyed making it a lot. So we'll talk to you next time. Bye.